Hello. Okay, I am officially live. So, I wanted to get started, and tonight I'm going to talk about mental health awareness tied into sexual assault awareness and domestic violence awareness, kind of like all combined. Also, how survivors can tend to numb themselves when certain situations take place, when trauma is experienced. So for me, that definitely happened. So I mentioned yesterday, for those of you who have watched, that I have had trauma ever since I was born. I was born into domestic violence. So I didn't really understand what was happening to me. A lot of what I experienced within my family growing up, it was just normalized. So I really didn't think that there was anything going on. I just thought that this was normal behavior that happens within a family. And unfortunately, that is very common. What I'm going to be talking about is that not a lot of people want to talk about this stuff either. It makes people uncomfortable. And you, for me at least, want to believe like none of this stuff is actually happening to you. So, my first sexual interaction already was not healthy. And growing up, I had already experienced like sexual harassment. And then it just, once I got into becoming a teenager, going through puberty and everything, it just got worse. But I do remember being 13 years old. By then I was at least in 7th grade, and having a lot of peer pressure. And when I was in 7th grade, I think this was 2004, I want to say. Definitely different times, but this stuff still happens in society today. But a lot of peer pressure within my classmates to do things with my body that I just was not wanting to do. But all of my friends were like, this is what you should do. And, you want to be cool. And because of what I experienced traumatically growing up, I just wanted people to like me. So I was like, okay, I guess this is what I should do. So yeah, that there was a lot of sexual harassment and just a lot of coercion, and pressure, which then I felt a lot of shame and guilt, like, oh, I need to be doing this. Like I'm the only one not doing this. And so then once, because of my mental health as well, like I didn't know that I had anxiety. I didn't know that I had depression. It was worse, honestly, because I just was like, okay, what can I do for people to like me? And I'll just do it then. So then once I hit high school, it got significantly worse. The only difference is that I was not using any type of like substance use. And I was actually highly against marijuana, alcohol. I think I started alcohol freshman or sophomore year. It was more the normal thing to do. But I was highly against marijuana. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm doing that. But then a lot of my friends were doing it, and I would give them speeches like, you can't do that, like, and but I was dating a very abusive partner at the time, and I remember him specifically saying to me, look, I'm a pothead, and you're either gonna do it or I'm going to break up with you. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. Like, I just didn't want to break up. So I was like, okay, I guess I need to do this. And so I did it, and I already had an addictive personality. I became obsessed with things very easily. And so that was not good because I was heavily addicted to marijuana. And a lot of people say that you can't be addicted to marijuana, but I absolutely was addicted. And this is what I wanted to talk about with numbing. So because of all the trauma that I experienced, I just wanted to escape. I just wanted to do something that would make me not have to live in the harsh reality of what my life was. And so the way I numbed as a kid, I would say food. Food was definitely the first thing that I became addicted to. And then, like I said, attention. Other things would be the alcohol in high school, and then marijuana was a major addiction. I could not do anything unless I was using marijuana. Like if I was upset in any way, I immediately needed to do marijuana so that I could calm down. I had no coping skills whatsoever, so that was my turning point to go to. I was not getting the attention that I needed by my caregivers, and any friendships or anything. Like I didn't really know how to speak up for myself, so I would just turn to the marijuana. And I have a lot of trauma with marijuana because if I didn't have it, I would just do things to get it. So one specific circumstance I'll mention: in college, I really needed marijuana, and also to escape the abuse that was happening within my home. I was living with my parents at the time, and what I was witnessing in my parents' home and what was happening to me, I didn't want to do anymore. So I would literally just like make friends with people and go to their houses or apartments so that I could get away from what I was experiencing in my house with my parents. So I honestly like didn't even care where I was going. It was just away from the abuse. So one specific circumstance that took place in college, I was like, okay, I really need marijuana. And so I made friends with someone who was in my math class, and we had conversations like, oh, I do this. Do you do it? Do you want to hang out? That was like really how all conversations happened. And I was like, okay, sure. And I was just happy because he had an apartment. The college I went to didn't have dorm rooms or anything, and I commuted from Massachusetts to Rhode Island. And so I went to his apartment, and I was the only female. And I think part of me knew that I probably shouldn't be here, but because I was so addicted to marijuana, I just didn't care. I'm like, oh, I don't have to spend my own money. Like, these guys are going to take care of me. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care if I'm unsafe or anything. I mean, I numbed myself so much to the point that I didn't even care to be alive. Like, and I think a lot of that was my depression. But like I said, I didn't know I had depression, so I didn't really care what happened to me. I just was like, oh, they have something that I need. So I started hanging out with them pretty regularly. And when I would hang out with them, again, it was like more focused on marijuana. And then eventually, I just wanted people to like me again. So I just did whatever they wanted. I was the only female. They were all male. And, I knew that to get something, they basically would like flirt with me and everything. And I'm like, okay, I really just need my fix. So I'm like, whatever, do whatever. But I didn't realize what I was doing to myself, and I didn't realize what they were doing to me. Like it was definitely a trap, like from day one. And I didn't know their intentions. Like I didn't know what, I was just so focused on the fix that like I didn't understand what I was putting myself into. But there was one specific circumstance when I was hanging out with these people where the person who invited me, he had invited me to his house like a regular day. And he saw that I was with his roommate, and he didn't like that. He became very territorial. And I mean, I saw this friend as a friend, and his roommate was someone that I have no idea. I guess I decided that that was something I wanted to do sexually. And because the friend who invited me to the house saw that I wasn't with him, he did not like that. And I remember not wanting to be at my parents' house because of the abuse at my parents' house. And I really just needed marijuana at the time. And so when I went to his house, I remember with all my books and my bags and stuff, knocking on his door and him being like, "You're not coming inside." I turned off on Instagram. But I was like, why can't I come inside? And he was like, "You can't come inside unless you give me oral," basically. Some of these things are hard for me to say still. So I kind of like filter things. But yeah, he was like, "Unless you do this, you can't come inside." And again, I was so heavily addicted to marijuana and not wanting to go to my parents' house or anything like that, that I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I just want to get inside. And so, I went inside, and it was literally like, he walked me into his bedroom, and he's like, "This is, like, hurry up. Like, this is what we're doing." And I mean, it was so uncomfortable. Like, I didn't want to do it at all. But the whole time I was just like, okay, he's going to give me the marijuana. So like, it doesn't matter. Like hurry up, just like do whatever. But the whole time I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, what? Like, I just was horrified with myself. And, so yeah, it happened. And I was not okay. Like, mentally, I was not okay. And like, I went downstairs, got what I was there for, which was the marijuana. And all of the guys that were there were like, "Are you okay?" Because I had been there for like months, you know. I would sleep at their house, and they all noticed that I was not okay. I was not myself. And one of them asked me if I was okay, and I was just like, "Don't talk to me." And then the person who had just assaulted me came downstairs and was like the man. Like, he was like telling people like that what just happened, like getting high fives. And I mean, I felt horrible because I actually slept at their house still. And then one of the guys drove me to school in the morning. And when I was in class, like, I was not okay. I was just sitting in class, just like blaming myself. And I was just had such shame. And, yeah, so I, eventually one of my classmates who was my friend said, like, "D'Angelo, are you okay? Like, what happened?" And I ended up just crying and telling her what happened to me. And she was like, you were sexually assaulted. Like, you have to do something about this. And so I ended up, with her help, telling my teacher, and my teacher helped me report it. And I mean, it was really difficult, and I just felt like it was all my fault. So when I ended up telling the police, I told them what happened, but I wanted to make it more believable because I didn't think that they were going to believe me anyway. And they kept asking me, oh, are you sure? Are you sure that this is what you want to do? Like, you don't have to report this. Like I don't think they believed me. And I already thought that they didn't believe me anyway. So I was trying to like fluff the story up a little bit more so that maybe they'll believe me, because I felt like the whole thing was my fault anyway, because I went there and agreed to it. But, you know, that's why I want to talk about what sexual assault is and what sexual abuse is and sexual violence, because it has everything to do with consent. And so like me as a mom now, like I'm teaching my kids about consent now, and they're 5, 2, and 1. And I'm teaching them in a way where it's like, if my 5-year-old wants to play with my 2-year-old, and then he has my 2-year-old's toy, I'll be like, did you ask her for her consent? And, you know, when it first started, my 5-year-old was like, what's that? And it's just like any other word. Like I'm just teaching it. So it's very important to talk about these things ahead of time. And like when you are talking about sexual interactions, you have to be talking about consent regularly. Like you could be having a sexual experience and you don't want to do it anymore. And so if there's no communication, how are you going to know that? Like you don't just have, because they're your girlfriend or boyfriend, like it's not like you own them. Like you don't just get to do it because you did it last week, or you do it all the time, or like you don't have rights to a person. So you need to have open communication, like even when you're doing it, and ask like, is this okay? Because when I originally went there, he said I needed to do this for me to get inside. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. But like, did I really say yes? No. Like a yes, consent is like a very exciting yes. Like it is like, absolutely. Like, you know, for sure that this person really wants to do this. It's not, yeah, sure, whatever. Or like maybe, or like not right now. Like, I mean, none of that is consent. So, I actually, there's this really great, like loveisrespect.org, and I was looking at it earlier before I started. And like, this is very common within marriages, like intimate partner relationships. And, like, it's just very important to know that you do not have rights to anybody. So, but because of what I experienced, like growing up and all the peer pressure and everything like that, and mental health and being exposed to domestic violence, and I just was like, oh, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. But every sexual interaction that I did have in my life was not healthy and was not consensual. So, I mean, a lot of people think that sexual assault has to be first of all, a lot of people think that sexual assault has to be someone you don't know. And that is a myth. Most sexual assault interactions are with people that you know. So for instance, my situation in college, I knew him because we were in the same math class. So you would say we were friends. But that took me a long time to get over, because when I went to the police, and, you know, I obviously fluffed the story up a bit because I wanted them to believe me. I mean, it was really scary, like talking about what happened to me in the first place. So like talking to a police officer about it, I was like, they're not going to believe a word I'm saying right now. And when I mean, I was dealing with domestic violence in my family too, and their go-to saying to me was like, you're a liar, you're a compulsive liar, you're a pathological liar, like nobody believes anything that you say. So I already had it in my mind that like I'm a liar, like that's what I am. And so I was like, I have to do something so that they'll believe me more. I see something in the chat. When a yes is forced upon you, it's coercion. You are powerful and courageous. Thank you for speaking so candidly. Thank you. I just want to spread awareness. And I mean, I'm like shaking right now because I have, I spoke yesterday, but like I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm always being checked for anxiety and depression. And I'm trying to face my fears. Like, I don't want fear to own me. And I think that this is a place where I can just share my story, and hopefully I can help some people, because I feel like these conversations are not talked about. And even within friends and friend groups, it's more celebrated if you have sexual partners or but these conversations are not something that really takes place. At least that's what happened with me. So yeah, basically what happened in college though, my abuser ended up recording the sexual interaction. And like I had mentioned, like I was doing everything he wanted physically, but mentally I escaped. I was numbing myself to the point that I was in a completely different place. I was not in that room. I was completely dissociated to the point where I really don't even know. I was just kind of on autopilot, like doing what he told me to do. And so this was like 2012, and he did a video, not a video, he did an audio recording of the interaction, and he had it in his pocket the whole time. I had no idea. It wasn't until I went to the police and told them what happened, and then obviously they investigated, they had him come to the department, and he played them the audio. And then I was looked at as the criminal. They looked at me like I'm a liar. And then that hurt even more because I was like, yeah, my family's right. Like, all I'm ever going to be is a liar. And so I told them, I was like, look, I did exaggerate a bit, because to me, I thought that sexual assault and rape had to be what you see in the movies, like somebody holding you down, tying you to a bed against your will with like, you know, a weapon to you. And so I was like, I have to make this more where they're going to take this seriously. And I had no experience with making a police report before. So, I mean, I was terrified. Like, I was absolutely horrified. So, yeah, I was then the criminal, and they actually charged me with a false report of a crime. And they took my fingerprints, and they said it was a felony and that they were going to change it to a misdemeanor because obviously I have issues. That's what the female detective said to me. She's like, you're a female with all these males using marijuana, because once they like played me the audio, they were like, is this you? Is this you? And I was like, yes, that's me. And they were like, so none of this happened. I was like, no, this still happened. The only thing that I was fluffing up was the extremity of what happened, because I didn't think you guys were going to believe me. Like, I told them everything. Like, I was terrified, and like, I told them about the marijuana. I didn't want to tell them about the marijuana in the first place because I thought, you know, back then it was not decriminalized. And, I mean, I was horrified that I was just going to get in trouble and that it was all going to be my fault anyway. So I did eventually start telling them everything. Like, it was like I just kept telling them everything, and it didn't matter. I was the criminal. And so I had to go to court the next day and explain myself. And this was in Rhode Island. And so in Rhode Island, I had to plead like nolo contendere, which is basically saying like, yes, I made a false police report of a crime, but I had to do community service. Like, it was horrible. Like, it was just such a horrible experience because I did not believe that I was sexually assaulted in the end, because I was like, you know, I'm in trouble. Like, so yeah. So it wasn't until recently that I understood that I really was sexually assaulted. Like, I really didn't. And then once I started getting therapy, I was like, oh, I've been sexually assaulted multiple times. Like, every single sexual interaction that I've had was coerced. It was like guilting me and pressuring me into doing, like, my very first experience, I was 15. I had just turned 15. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And my boyfriend was 17 at the time, and it was like something that you were supposed to do. Like, I remember them having conversations about it, like him and his cousin being like, are you going to do it tonight? Are you going to do it tonight? And that was a lot of conversation. Like, I had mentioned in, middle school and in high school, like, this is what you talked about and what you did. And it was like a race. And I was in no place to do that. And I remember saying, like, I don't think I'm ready. And so I really did think, like, sexual assault and rape had to be something where you see it in the movies. And, but the more I'm learning in therapy, like, the more I'm learning that I've never had one single healthy sexual interaction in my entire life. And, yeah, that's tough because a lot of people don't even realize that. So I'm not the only one. And I know that after all of the support groups I've gone to. And, but I am proud to say now that, I've been sober for 6 years, which is awesome. My oldest, actually, he saved my life. That's how I see it. Because when I got pregnant with my son, that was my reason for living. And I wanted to give him everything. And so that was the beginning of my sober lifestyle. And to this day, I don't have alcohol. I am sickened by marijuana, like even the smell. And I'm very proud of where I've come, honestly. And I'm in therapy often, and therapy has really helped me understand everything that's happened to me. And I'm still learning. Like I had mentioned yesterday, like, I'm going to be healing forever. And I'm going to maybe sometimes feel like I'm on top of the world. And then other times I'm feeling hopeless, but it doesn't make me any less of a survivor, any less of a thriver. And, I know what has happened to me. And what happened to me in college, that was just one circumstance. Like, I could name so many others, and I don't think I'm alone in that. The more that I started to uncover what actually happened to me, the more that I'm realizing all of the different things that have happened to me. And I would love to continue this conversation. I'm really grateful to those of you who did show up and listen live. And for those of you that will watch later, I'm just very grateful. And I'm proud of myself to be able to talk about these things and know that people aren't alone. And yeah, so I'm going to sign off, but thank you all so much and take care.